and welcome. It is officially October now. I would say one of the best months of the year. It's fall. It's beginning to get cooler, especially in places like Houston, where I'm at. It's also my birthday. So overall, it's a great month, and I'm looking forward to it. It also happens to be Sober October for many who are participating in that. So it's a great month also because I am sober myself. So not just for October. While October is my birthday month, and I do like my birthday, not so much for the gifts and the cake and candy and cookies, but more so for the time I get to spend with my family. We really, on birthdays, put time aside that we can spend together. And it just becomes a really happy day during the year for each of us on our birthdays. So I have a great time in October. But I have another birthday that I celebrate, and that's my sobriety birthday. And unlike just for being born, everyone has a birthday to celebrate the day they were born. For those of us in sobriety, we often celebrate our our sober birthdays. And that's a very proud birthday for me. And that for me is in March. So as I celebrate another year of life, I also take time to reflect on my sobriety, which is just over 7.5 years. And it's really monumentally impacted my life. And just totally transformed my trajectory over the last 7.5 years when I decided to get sober. So, what is this podcast? This podcast is Strength in Sobriety. My name is Hunter Holtzapfel, and I just want to start the series, the whole podcast off with a little intro about what this is about, and then eventually dive in with guests and be able to talk to those who are also sober and why it benefits them, and why it's okay to be sober and not be afraid of it. So I figure I better first start out with what sobriety is to me, and what I'm sober from, and kind of what my journey there was. So I struggled with alcohol. It's hard to say sometimes still. I would by some be considered an alcoholic. Not that I drank every day or every hour or needed to wake up and have a beer or alcohol, but I was more of the Pringles variety. Like once the can popped, the fun never stopped until it was, blackout drunk or whatever the case may be. So, I noticed it, in college, it was kind of you're in college, it's what people do. And then early on in my career, I worked in the field, and it was time on, when you're on, and you're in the field, and, there's no means of drinking. But then when it was time off, it was kind of like, let's party. And it was really not a conducive lifestyle to being healthy. I was, when intoxicated, said any number of things to any number of people, and just was kind of a hurricane, if you will, just leaving whatever in my wake. And I thought I was having fun. I thought it was for the right reasons. I'm here to party, but I think I was hiding something or trying to suppress something. There you can hear my son in the background. He's probably getting tired. That's one of the changes of sobriety, is I was able to, have a relationship, and eventually have kids. So anyways, back to the story. I just, was increasingly not having a good relationship with drinking, and just kind of being destructive, overall to myself and society as a whole, probably. So, my journey with drinking was typically, party hard and then vow to never drink again. And then the next weekend, or sometimes even the next night, party again. And it never really got in the way of my career or my work. Although I will say that, being sober now, I'm much more productive. So in that sense, maybe it was, I think it's somewhere like can take up to a week or more to recover from a very hard night of drinking. So I could see how that potentially got in the way of work in that sense, but never was I like missing work because of drinking. So in my mind, I didn't have a problem. But again, as soon as that first beer was drank, or first taste of alcohol, it was like game on. And, I would often, drink into oblivion. So that really was not appropriate. But it took a lot to change. I was overweight. I was sick. I had blood tests done that showed, a lot of, health problems. I would say things to people that I loved. I mean, it was just not a good situation. In drinking, it took a lot for me to realize I changed, because alcohol is so accepted in society, and it's really an integral part of a lot of things, especially in the oil and gas industry in which I work. So I didn't think I had a problem, even though I was overweight. I was unhealthy, had unhealthy relationships, both with alcohol and people. Just I was able to, in my mind, escape reality by drinking, and I never really thought I had a problem until I realized one day, wow, I do. Through some prompting of people that I love, my family, I decided to go to AA and seek help. And at first I thought, I don't need this. I'm not like those people. I'm not like those people who you see on intervention on TV. But really, there was one person in particular that shared his story. And I was like, man, that is me. And I can relate. And he had been sober at the time for 5+ years. And his story really resonated with me. And I guess that's the hope of this podcast, is to, reach out to people who may be struggling a little bit with addiction, or may be questioning sobriety and think, is this for me? And I would say if you're questioning it, if you have any thoughts, reach out to someone and just ask questions. Those of us who have been through AA or are on a path of sobriety typically have no problem sharing some of the story. I think it's important to hear that, because you're not alone. You're not alone out there. There's plenty of people who've gone from addiction, from various kinds, to sober lifestyle. In fact, I've recently noticed that addictive personality fits me as a description. There's a lot of things that I find myself really diving into, almost to the point of like being negative. Like, for instance, recently I started getting into photography, and like, I cannot stop looking for the perfect camera. And I would argue that that's another form of addiction, although not as bad. Same thing with like ice cream. If I start a pint of ice cream, it's very hard for me to stop, until it's gone. So, you're not alone. There's people out there that can help. There's programs that can help. And hopefully, some way this podcast can help as well. Just because you have an addictive personality, in some ways, addiction and addictive personalities benefit. If you're addicted to work, you might come across as very successful, but I think self-reflection just needs to be done to make sure it's not harmful. And to be honest, I don't know where this necessarily came from. Maybe that's something I can explore and learn about myself, because I didn't have a necessarily bad childhood. In fact, I'd say my childhood was pretty good. I had great parents. I had great grandparents. A lot of support there. There probably could be some potential trauma associated with our divorce, my parents' divorce, but nothing like extreme. So I don't want to I would never blame them. I did recently listen to a podcast where they talk about little T trauma and big T trauma. Obviously, big T trauma, like big trauma, people associate trauma with, is, understandably very impactful on your life. But there's little traumas along the way that can possibly affect your life as well. And again, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know if that's the case with me. Like I said, I had a great childhood, so I wouldn't want to put any of that on that. But nevertheless, I assume there's something in my DNA that doesn't agree with alcohol and is just addictive in general. So I hope to explore that a little bit more, and really dig in, even though I've been sober for 7.5 years, and I'm still in my being is an addiction, and there's a reason for that, and I probably should continue to explore why. I mean, I've worked through the 12 steps. In fact, the 12th step is sharing and helping others, in the program, and hopefully this podcast can do that. But I still probably have some self-reflection to do, and it can continue to do throughout my life, and I hope to share some of that on this podcast, like I said. So what is this podcast, and what do I want to share? Well, one, change is possible, and it's good. I think a lot of people are scared of change. I not drinking was a big change for me. I was that party guy. I was the one who didn't have a limit. Go to the party, drink all the beer. I mean, that was my persona, and everything I did revolved around alcohol to an extent. Again, not work, not like I was able to turn it off for a time. But when it was like the weekend and we were going to go to let's say a ball game, where could I drink beforehand? So it was all kind of like everything revolved around drinking outside of me being at home by myself, or work related activities. And even then, in this industry, there's a lot of extracurricular activities that do involve going to the bar or going out to dinner and having drinks. So I was never too far from drinking, and that said, I have drank plenty of times at home alone. So maybe that was my first indication of an issue. So what else will we talk about, or do I want to talk about? You can reinvent yourself. It's not impossible, but it does take work. Your life will probably get better. They say in AA that your life will get better than anything you could ever imagine. And when I was sitting in AA the first couple months, I was like, what are these guys and girls talking about? This is crazy talk. This isn't some magic program, but really it is. And if you stick with it, you'll see it. I was at a point where I said, I'm over marriage. I'm over, relationships like that. But when I was a kid, that was something that I really valued and said, I think kids are, fantastic. That was a goal of mine, is to have a family. And then as I progressed, I said, I don't need a family anymore. And I think I was just lying to myself. So anyways, through sobriety, I've been able to have a healthy relationship with my wife, have kids. And I would say my wildest dreams are coming true, because you never imagined that life-changing thing if you haven't had it yet. Don't do it alone. This is something that, you can ask for help, and help is out there. And it's okay to admit that have a problem, and you're not a bad person for it. Some things are just simply out of our control, like I said, wired in our DNA, and it gets a grip on us. That addiction takes hold, and sometimes it's hard, and it's hard to shake it, and it's okay to ask for help, and you're not a bad person for it. Sometimes we do bad things, but that doesn't mean we're bad people. You probably can't go back to drinking or whatever your addiction is. It's I think a lot of us think, oh, maybe one day I can try moderate drinking, but I've seen from friends and even family members that usually doesn't work. So you have to commit, but I promise it's worth it. Life exists outside of alcohol. That is certainly true. It's something I thought of when I was drinking, like when I just started getting sober. Like, what am I gonna? I can't watch sports anymore, because that's a big part of how I watch sports. But guess what? Life does exist, and there's a lot of people out there that don't drink and will still have fun with you. And there's so many things that you can do sober, like infinite number of things. So, in fact, you can even be around people who are drinking, depending on how much you're triggered or not. That's a whole nother ball of wax, but life exists outside of alcohol. And I just hope to share so much more. I hope to discover more about myself. Like I said, I still want to figure out why I do the things I do, why I'm addicted to certain things, why I like to dive all in. I hope to discover more about me through other guests and other people who talk about or can talk about sobriety. I also wanted to share the other part of this podcast, strength and sobriety. So there's sobriety, which is, big main focus of it. But the other part is strength. Strength in the literal sense and in the abstract sense as well. Strength in admission to saying I'm an addict. Strength in being honest. Strength in sobriety. Strength in being sober. And then there's strength in the literal sense. Mark Bell, one of my favorite fitness influencers, if you will, says strength is never a weakness, and weakness is never a strength. Sobriety literally helped save my life. I made a lot of poor decisions when drinking, and I never really realized how unhealthy I was until I started got sober, I should say, and took up fitness. I mean, I really changed my entire life and my entire mentality, and now fitness is a very integral part of my life, and that's what I want to share with the listener as well. It's never too late to start. But I can hopefully help share how to start, where to start, why to start, and why it's never too late. Even if it's something simple as going for a walk. My journey on walking has progressed from just being active and moving around to consciously hitting 10,000 steps a day. And that in itself was life changing. So just to share on what is out there, and let people know, it's never too late to start, and it doesn't have to be as scary as going into a gym and being around all these people pumping iron. It's okay to start as simple as walking. And I want to share how that saved my life and how it can save yours as well. And again, share that strength is never a weakness. Strength training and health and fitness in general can give you a purpose. It can give you something to do. It's a distraction, especially as you're getting sober. It can be a distraction from that, that desire to go back to that old way of living. And it can be an outlet, a definite outlet for your mental hangups. I would encourage anyone to just start small, go for a walk, but more on that as we progress through this series and episodes of strength and sobriety. I have went all in. I've changed to different fitness programs, from CrossFit to powerlifting to just general health and fitness. Like I said, I walk 10,000 steps daily, and that's life changing. I just want to, again, through these episodes, talk about talk about how it helps someone who's in a program in sobriety. And it doesn't have to be just from alcohol. I think that's just, my sobriety, and what I'm most familiar with. And I want to encourage you to again, realize you're not alone. There's more of us out there. There's a lot more of us out there than people may expect, not just addicts and sober people, but also just people who abstain from drinking in general. When I was drinking, I thought people were weird if they didn't drink. I thought that was all that it was drinkers, and then the minority was non-drinkers. And it's actually quite the opposite. I think the minority is people who drink like I used to, binge drinking. Like I said, I call it the Pringles variety, but more classic definition is a binge drinker. Someone who consumes, I think the definition is more than like 3 or 5 drinks at a time. I mean, I was well above that. I was just reminiscing with a colleague a friend in college, how much we party, and it was just like disgusting amounts of alcohol. So, I don't know where I was in with that, but, that's what I'm familiar with, and hope to share more and share how, again, strength in the sobriety, in the sense that, you are strong, you are a strong person, you're stronger and better when you're sober. And then also, strength in the sense that, being strong, lifting weights, getting active is incredible. And that will help your sobriety for sure. So this is just a short episode introducing the series. So I hope you have enjoyed this first part and got to know a little bit more about the series in general. And I hope to certainly share more, have some more guests on, some exciting guests, and hope you can go on this sober journey with me. And again, if you're out there and thinking about it, if you need help or if this is too hard, it gets better. You're not alone. Reach out for help. Reach out for someone in a program. Go to AA. Call a mental health crisis center. Reach out to me. There's people out there that can help you. And I just want you to know that. And you are strong and you are awesome, and keep it up. And strength is never a weakness. And you certainly can have strength in sobriety. Again, my name is Hunter Holtzapfel, and I hope you enjoy this series and season of Strength in Sobriety.